I'll be presenting on the JavaScript API for Tableau. And Tableau is a visualization tool that you can make graphs and other visualizations to display your data. And to find tutorials on the API, you can go to this link. And for students, you can get a free Tableau license, and you can find that by going to this link if you're interested. So let's briefly go over the tutorials. That link brings you to this page, and you say start the tutorial. Some of the cool things that you can do with the API is you can access the filters, different tabs. You can make selections on those visualizations, and you can do a variety of these things through chain calls, and you can access the sheets and other things that we really won't go into with this video. But before you can use the JavaScript API, you need a published workbook. So I'm going to go into Tableau, and I've published this dashboard on Tableau Public, which is available to everyone to see. And this workbook has 2 sheets in it. So I guess going over Tableau, you can make sheets which have data on them with connections and other things. And with those sheets, you can drag them onto dashboards. So I've gone to Tableau Public and I've saved this online. So let's go to that URL here. So in order to use the JavaScript API, you need to come to share, grab this URL, and I'll bring that into Sublime. And with the URL, they have other options that you can put on it, but you should grab the main string of the URL. Let's come back to the top, and I put that in my global variable workbook URL, and I'll use that later on. But let me explain first the overall structure that I have in this example. And this is the embedded dashboard that I've brought in from Tableau Public. So this is how it looks. So let's dive into the HTML. It's a basic HTML document. I'm using the Holy Grail CSS style sheet that we went over in class, the Flexbox example. I grabbed the Bootstrap CDN, and for JavaScript I'm using jQuery and my own customized JavaScript file. And a very important thing to use the JavaScript API, you need to go and get that JavaScript file from online.tableau.com, and that's the file that you need to have in your HTML document. As far as the body of my website, I've put the visualization in here, and I'll access that and using my JavaScript file. And then I just have 3 basic Bootstrap panels that have buttons in them that click to different methods that are in my JavaScript file. So this is really the backbone of accessing the JavaScript API. I get the URL and put that into a global variable, and I've initialized other global variables, And when my HTML is done loading, it will call this jQuery call, and that's going to be initializing my viz object. Tableau has made in their JavaScript API viz objects, which is I'm guessing is short for visualization. And in order to make a viz object, you need three things. You need to know where it is going to be on the HTML document, the URL that it's going to be grabbing the embedded dashboard from, and you can tack on some options. And so I'm grabbing the viz, or the Tableau viz div that I have in my HTML document, and these options allow you to decide how big you want to display the dashboard on your site. And with the dashboard, you can have tabs at the top that show all the sheets in your dashboard, but I'm going to hide those. And I like to not hide the toolbar to allow users to undo different selections they do on the dashboard. And then we set the workbook to our global variable. So that's initializing the dashboard on my website. But when they click on buttons, over here, they access the filters that are on my viz object. So when I've selected this button, cast and suture, it's going to go over the procedure description and only select cast and suture, rather than a user trying to only select cast and suture and wait for it. It can take a while to do that, and if they're doing this over and over each day, you can add these customized buttons to help with that. So I can reset the procedure here, filter, procedure filter, or if I wanted to get rid of the null values, I can do that. So the JavaScript behind this is, so this is for the cast and suture filter button that I have, and I have the graph sheet, which I'm going to use for the bar graph on that dashboard, and the date sheet, which is those circles at the bottom that shows the procedures over time. So I'm going to grab my global variable workbook, and I'm going to activate the sheet encounter, or the unc versus pros, which is encounter versus procedure, and that's here in Tableau is what I need my dashboard. So it's going to grab that, and then with that dashboard, I'm going to use those variables that I've declared up above to get the individual sheets. So in that workbook, I want to get the encounters versus procedures sheet I have here, and I want to also get the procedures over time, which is here. And with the API, they show to return these objects, or return these calls, the apply filter async. What that's going to do is going to go find the procedure description filter. So on my graph sheet, I have a procedure description filter, and it's going to grab the cast and the suture filter on that procedure description. So that's kind of how you do that, and with replacing, and you can remove or you can clear those filters. So there is different methods that you can call on the given sheet for the different filters. You can either replace, which we did with the procedures of cast and suture, it'll, if there's already a filter applied to it, it'll overwrite that filter and give those selections of cast and suture. If there's already cast and suture selected, you can do a dot add, and you could add biopsy or what other selections that are on that filter. Or if cast was already selected and was the only one, you could get rid of it by selecting the remove method. So that explains the top one, the top panel that I had put in with procedures. I also did the same with dates. There's like if I click on this, it will give me all the January procedures and encounters, or in the springtime or summer. I can reset that. Or like I showed on the tutorial page for the API documentation, you can make selections. So if I wanted to select the procedure electrocardiogram, and I did this several times a day or whatnot, I could click electrocardiogram and it would select that, and I could clear that selection. So these are just some basic things that I have done with the API.